Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the King Jordan Radio Show for Season 5, Episode 23. Today's date is March 9, 2017. Tonight on the show, we'll talk about Casey Anthony, who opened up her mouth to the Associated Press, and she threw her dad, George, under the bus. We'll talk to our guests about that. We'll talk about Aaron Hernandez is in his second murder trial. We'll talk about the ramifications of that. We'll talk about a custody battle with a 3-year-old. And we'll talk about the late Biggie Smalls, killed today, actually, 20 years ago in my hometown here in Brooklyn, New York. So let me first introduce, making his return. He is a veteran defense attorney out of New York City. Ladies and gentlemen, with pleasure, let's bring back Alex Sanchez. Good evening, Alex. How are you? How is everything?
Yeah, Jordan, how's it going? It's great to be back. It seems like you haven't done a show together in a long time. But, you know, things happen in life and work and family and other events get in the way. But we're here now, and I hope to have a great show tonight.
Amen to that. I also have today a veteran Seattle attorney. She worked with the Amanda Knox case. She is one of the top lawyers in the world. Let's bring into the conversation the one and only Ann Bremner. Good evening, Ann. Thank you for joining us here tonight on King Jordan Radio. How are you?
Well, I'm so glad to be here with you and Alex, and thanks for the very nice intro.
It's fine. And everything good over there in Seattle?
Sure, but it's been raining constantly for days. I know people think it always does, but not quite like this, so it's a little bit gloomy. But otherwise, great.
Alex, would you take the rain or the weather that we get sometimes here in New York?
Well, you know, my daughter lived in Seattle for a while.
I remember
she worked
that.
at Microsoft.
Right.
Yeah. And I went there a couple of times. When I went there, for whatever reason, it was, you know, the weather was perfect. But I went.
Because you were here.
Yeah, right. Went for 2 days at a time, 3 days at a time. But, you know, to live in gloomy, you know, weather, doesn't that get depressing? And I mean, don't you know?
Yeah, I would say right now it's really depressing. I mean, it's just pouring and it just doesn't stop. So right now it's pretty gloomy, but it's really pretty here in the summer.
Speaking of gloomy,
nice trees over there.
Let's get into the infamous Casey Anthony, who spoke to the AP, and we'll get this guy's take on the other side. Here is what she said a couple days ago. Let's see if it's
As to the charge of first-degree murder, verdict as to count 1, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, so say we
In
all.
2011, Casey Anthony was acquitted of first-degree murder in the death of her 2-year-old daughter, Caylee.
Well, you were also convicted of one thing.
Lying to the cops.
Right.
People lie to the cops every day. Cops lie to people every day. I'm just one of the unfortunate idiots who admitted that they lied.
For the first time, Anthony is speaking to a news media outlet about Caylee's death. In a series of recorded interviews with the Associated Press, Anthony said she knows much of the world believes she killed her daughter, despite her acquittal.
I see why I was treated the way that I was, even had I been completely truthful with those officers.
What weren't you truthful about? And I understand it might have been out of panic.
It was things that I didn't know at the time.
Caylee was last seen on June 16, 2008. Anthony's mother reported her missing a month later.
Her mother finally admitted that she's been missing.
The next day, Anthony was arrested on charges of child neglect. She told police Caylee had disappeared with a babysitter.
I'm still not even certain as I stand here today about what happened.
During the trial, the defense team argued Caylee had drowned and Anthony covered it up with her father. Just this month, the former judge who presided at the trial theorized that Anthony may have killed her daughter accidentally when she was using chloroform to calm her. Her lawyer quickly dismissed that.
To your understanding, how did she die?
I don't know.
You don't know? Something about drowning, possibly.
Everyone else has their theories. I don't know.
So your parents had her?
My dad did.
And next thing you know, she's missing, and right? How did it play?
I did what I was told. I don't remember too much of what happened.
Anthony now says she was sleeping when her daughter vanished.
Give me the situation when things went wrong. When did things go wrong? All of a sudden, it's like, where's Caylee? Like, is that how it went?
No. What I remember is being in bed, my mom coming in before she left for work and saying goodbye to us. And then waking up several hours later. And
later in the morning.
Hour, 2 hours later, and not knowing where she was.
Don't you wish you know what happened?
Absolutely.
The 30-year-old Anthony now lives in the South Florida home of the lead investigator who worked on her case. She works for him in assisting attorneys representing criminal defendants.
One of the reasons I'm so good at my job is because I'm taking everything that the state tried to use against me, like my Facebook and pictures and all that stuff that they distorted. I now go through and research people's backgrounds and put everything together in a good way.
While Anthony says she still doesn't know what happened in the last hours of Caylee's life, she's not fazed that others are convinced of her guilt.
I don't give a shit about what anybody thinks about me. I don't care about that. Yeah. I never will. I'm okay with myself. I sleep pretty good at night.
Josh Raplogle, The Associated Press, West Palm Beach, Florida.
Alex Sanchez, this was the big trial of the century in 2011, found not guilty on the most serious charges, of course. You know, she sleeps with this, she lives with this lawyer. Well, can you explain why she would want to be in the attention, bring up more attention of herself when people are just maybe starting to forget about her, A, and do you believe anything you just heard out of her mouth, B?
The first question I'm asking myself is, I wonder what kind of assistance she's providing this lawyer. Maybe Ann Bremner has some, insight into that.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's number one. But number two,
it makes for a great movie.
Number two, shouldn't there be some type of a rule and that some people just need to go away and disappear into infinity and never come back? And how come she doesn't disappear? Why doesn't she just get out of here? We don't want to hear her anymore. You can't believe anything she said. She lied about everything. I hate to use this term, but I always found it rather, let's say, amusing when she was jerking around the police and telling them that she worked, I think, at Disneyland or Disney World, and she worked with supervisors and she had a job there, and they didn't believe her, and she said, look, I'm going to take you there. Let's go. And she takes them there, and the cops are, following her around, trying to figure out, what's going on here. And they go to Disney World, and they go into some type of offices, and they're walking down these offices, and finally she turns around and says, no, I got to tell you the truth, I don't work here. I mean, this woman's a crackpot. What is there to say? I mean, you said at the beginning that she threw her father under the bus. I mean, this guy's been thrown under so many trains, so many buses. He's been under so many steamrollers at this point. I mean, there's nothing left of the guy.
It's unreal.
Yeah, it's unreal. So again, I really would like Ann to comment on what is she doing with this lawyer.
Oh my! I can't imagine what she's doing, Alex. And maybe she's just kind of hoisting herself on her own petard, because I can't imagine any lawyer using her to interview witnesses or do anything would put her in a courtroom and put her credibility into a case. Maybe she's looking at Facebook and researching people and just generating reports. I remember I was at that trial. I did some work there for MSNBC and Fox, And it was just, they called it Camp Casey and all the press out there. Everyone thought she'd be convicted. I mean, she lied. Remember her imaginary friends? It wasn't just that she said she had a job and she didn't. She had all these people she made up, and Zanny the nanny, and all of this stuff. And now she's saying she was sleeping. I thought the baby drowned in the pool. We heard in the opening statement. Of course she didn't testify, and it's probably a good thing she didn't testify, because what she's saying now is just incredible. And she should just go away. I think the rule is people like her just need to be, gone into infinity. She's a horrible person, at a minimum, for neglecting her child, and most people believe that she killed her child. Even the judge said it could have been accidental, but nevertheless it was a homicide under Florida law. I mean, they have a child neglect homicide law there, which basically is felony murder. And I can't believe the jury didn't find that, but they didn't. I can remember also I remember the day of the verdict being live. When the verdict came in, standing on top of a satellite truck and having to go live, and they said not guilty, I was just like, oh, what do I say now?
Isn't that, don't you think with the, I think you and I agree this woman is really off. But
off, yeah.
Don't you think it was improper what that judge said? Offering his speculation as to what happened. That's not what a judge is supposed to do. The judge is, he should remain quiet.
He's not currently a judge anymore. He's not.
But still, he was a judge at the time.
Exactly.
And he's not supposed to be making public comments about cases. I mean, for what? And
exactly. I'm with you.
So I don't know what the heck that guy was up to. That might be the reason he's no longer a judge.
Well, remember how hard he was on Jose Baez during the trial?
Oh my.
I don't know if you remember that. He was very hard on the defense lawyer.
Nah, he didn't strike me as the most competent judge, to tell you the truth. He looked like he was being dragged around by the lawyers, at least the defense lawyers there. And he didn't exert power over the attorneys and over the trial itself. And he was part of the roadkill in that case.
It was a big case, and I don't think anybody will ever forget when they heard about those cases. And after that, Jodi Arias became public enemy number one. So this brings back old wounds, I would think. Now, and if the jury that made this not guilty call for Casey, if they heard some of the stuff, do you think maybe there's regretting the vote?
I would hope so. I mean, I understand what they were saying in terms of why they rendered the verdict that they did. Their view was because the child was so badly decomposed, they didn't know the cause of death, and because they didn't know the mechanism of death and how she died, they felt that they couldn't find beyond a reasonable doubt that somebody did it. And they didn't understand circumstantial evidence. That's my view. That having been said, her lack of remorse, her finger pointing now, her use of profanity, her not caring what anyone thinks, I would think that would give any juror that sat on her case pause today.
And she says she can relate to O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, well, that's all. Oh my gosh, yeah. That says it all.
He said he was innocent.
If you're gonna pick anybody as a role model or somebody, I mean, why him? I mean, this guy's the absolute worst. He's the worst of the worst. He's almost as bad.
Can you imagine an interview with Casey and O.J.?
I know.
It's almost
table.
Jordan, he's almost as bad as that couple in Italy that murdered that girl.
Oh no, I was on that one.
Oh, here we go. All of a sudden, we got an innocent person. Come on.
Right.
So I assume by what they said, she's, according to Anne, who did a good job, well, she was found not guilty, and I guess
she is not guilty. Yeah.
Right.
What is she doing with herself, by the way, these days, Anne?
She's in Seattle. She writes for the West Seattle Herald, a newspaper that supported her when she was in prison, and she's also working with a lot of innocence projects around the country. And she's just kind of settling into having a normal life, frankly. They did the big Netflix piece.
She's doing like legal stuff. Maybe she could hook up with Casey Anthony and get like.
She's not. She's the antithesis of Casey Anthony. She does not want anything to do with things like that, and she's really just trying to get her life back.
Yeah,
I
everybody
hope so.
wants
I
their
hope
life.
Everybody
wants their life
victim.
back after getting involved in heinous activities.
Anytime you want to talk to Amanda Knox, I can talk to you about that case because she was stone cold innocent, and I'm really glad that she was exonerated. Finally.
Stone cold innocent.
Wow.
It's powerful. But Aaron Hernandez also back in for another trial. Here's some sound. We'll talk about it.
Former Patriot and convicted killer Aaron Hernandez is now on trial for a double murder. Hernandez was in the courtroom this morning as attorneys began jury selection, and already dozens of potential jurors have been ruled out. WBZ's Louisa Moeller is live in Boston tonight. Louisa?
Well, Lisa, with a high-profile case like this, prospective jurors won't necessarily be ruled out if they have prior knowledge of Hernandez's conviction, but finding completely unbiased jurors, well, that could be difficult.
My honor to introduce you to Aaron Hernandez, which I represent. Good morning.
Aaron Hernandez greeted 183 prospective jurors Tuesday. Only 12 will decide if the expatriate star is guilty or innocent of the 2012 murders of Daniel De Abreu and Safiro Furtado outside a Boston nightclub.
2 counts of murder, 3 counts of armed assault with intent to murder.
And trial attorney Harry Mannion says picking these jurors is no easy task for the defense, especially since Hernandez already stood trial and was convicted of the murder of Odin Lloyd in a North Attleboro industrial park.
You just don't want someone who is going to just convict because he was convicted in Odin Lloyd.
Take this man, who was asked by the judge to remove his Patriots hat and questioned about his tattoos before being excused from the jury pool. His mind already made up.
Shot, 3, 4 people already?
That's why Mannion says after weeding out jurors with a questionnaire, defense attorney Jose Baez should look for a certain kind of juror.
Somebody that doesn't like the system, that thinks it's kind of all rigged. You need somebody that's just kind of alienated.
Now, a couple hundred more potential jurors are expected to show back up here to be questioned tomorrow morning. Live in Boston, Louisa Moeller, WBZ News.
Okay, Alex Sanchez. From an attorney standpoint, he is already convicted in the other trial. So, I mean, he goes ahead and gets Jose Baez. What's the strategy? I guess, throw a Hail Mary out there?
To try to show reasonable doubt, maybe? Let me tell you, I've always been fascinated with a particular portion of the trial, which they highlighted here for about a second. And I think Ann might know what I'm talking about. Anytime you're picking a jury for a defendant, they fill a whole jury room in of people, but they want to make sure the defendant does not know anybody in the jury pool, the potential jury pool, and anybody in the jury pool, the potential jurors, have to tell the court that they know this person or they recognize him. And so what they always do is they have the defendant stand up and look at all the jurors and say, good morning. Now, I always consider that very important because it's like the first time the jurors get a chance to meet my client. And I want to make sure they get up there and look at the jurors in the eye and try to appear as earnest as they possibly can and say good morning, how are you, or good afternoon to the jurors and turn around. And I think that first impression has always been important to me, and I don't underplay that particular moment. What Jose Baez's defense is going to be, I don't know what his defense is going to be other than the fact that the witnesses are mistaken in their identification of Hernandez, or that they're lying, or that there's some form of police misconduct. It's got to center around some of those concepts. But now his other trial, in which he was convicted of murder, none of that information is going to come out at this trial, because if it did, the jury here is going to say, well, this guy's some sociopathic murderer, and just convict him. So that information is going to be barred from coming out at this trial. But what the other elements of Baez's defense are, that remains to be seen. I'm sure he's not, writing articles on the internet on how he's going to defend, Hernandez. That wouldn't make too much sense. So you're going to have to watch the trial to find out.
Ben Bremner, what do you think?
You know, I did a lot of coverage for his first trial for CNN, and I thought that it was the best prepared circumstantial prosecution case I've seen in a long time because it was a difficult case. I mean, that having been said, this one is similar, but they can make it look like it was a gang gunfight, you know, whatever. I mean, there's a big Jose Baez seems to be going toward statements from at least, you know, one individual that said it was a gunfight. I mean, why would he shoot and kill somebody, more than one person, over a spilled drink? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So, and he has personalized Hernandez, who's actually a very charming guy. You know, he might be a sociopath, but he's very charming. And like Alex says, you know, he looks at people in the eye, and this is my client, good morning, you know, et cetera, during jury selection. That all goes a long way. But, you know, the fact of the matter is it's a very strange case that there'd be a drive-by like that, you know, shooting in and shooting a couple of people just over a spilled drink, and maybe there was more going on than that. Maybe the jury will think that. And, of course, you just raise reasonable doubt. And he is Aaron Hernandez. I mean, he was with the Patriots. I mean, he was a big deal. And he's somebody that presents very, very well. The prosecution should not underestimate him. Or his lawyer.
So, Ann, let's just say,
yeah, go ahead.
Hypothetically, he gets off this case. So obviously he would be trying to get an appeal with respect to the other case that he's convicted.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you said, you followed that case.
I did.
Do you think there is any case of an appeal with respect to the other case?
You know, I mean, I think there were a lot of rulings in that case that, you know, could be appealed. It was very complicated, and you know, in terms of what the judge let in and didn't, and so there's plenty of things that could be grounds for appeal. I seem to recall that there was an admission by the defense in their closing arguments that he was there, and maybe that'll be attacked on ineffective assistance because he didn't testify, and for the lawyer to say he was there when Odom was killed, you know, out there in that area outside. I mean, I think there was some issue on that, but it's kind of vague to me. But finally, I mean, it was a very circumstantial case. I mean, remember the surveillance, remember the cell phone, remember that the victim texted NFL right before he died, and you know, all those pieces came together for the jury, and they put them together, and they convicted him. And you know, those are tough cases, but the prosecution did a very nice job of just putting all those puzzle pieces together. But of course, from that can come, you know, a lot of appellate grounds, and I think I remember the judge I thought was very careful, and I thought very impressive.
Howie?
No, I was just going to say, you know, people, I constantly hear this. I express the same question myself. Why would somebody do something like this over a spilled drink? You know, it sounds so irrational, and it sounds so, you know, over the top. But, you know, the reality is that there are some people that are seriously unhinged. And these little things, in their mind, have great significance. And a spilled drink, you know, means you greatly disrespected that person. And you need to pay the penalty.
Yeah.
It's almost like a road rage type thing. You know, somebody cuts you off. You know, some people go crazy. They want to see you dead. And it's similar in nature. And this guy was a powerful guy. He had a lot of money, and he was the leader of whatever crew he was hanging out with. And these people are a bunch of sycophants that were around him. And he's running the show. He's the king. He's the big man. And he gets enraged and becomes crazy. And he's going to do what he wants. He's got guns. So people say, why would somebody do this over a spilled drink? Well, you know what? People kill over spilled drinks.
But he had a brand new baby. He had a baby on the way, a brand new baby. He had all that multi-million-dollar contracts, you know, and he had that beautiful home. I mean, he had the doghouse was as big as where I live, you know. I mean, it was like he had everything. Why would he give that up?
He had everything except mental stability.
Yeah.
There was something wrong upstairs. You could have it all. You could have all the money. You could have the houses and the cars and the fame.
Look at OJ.
If something is wrong, if you had a couple of loose screws up there, it's
you know
all
what?
over.
You know what they called him, Alex, in Rolling Stone magazine? They called him the gangster in the huddle. I thought that was a great description. The gangster in the huddle.
Yeah. There's a lot of well-known people that are gangsters in the huddles.
And did you ever hear the case of the so-called model who had that mugshot or something, and now he's doing something, and he had like this super model physique or something?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You heard about that?
I think so.
Now he's
like a prisoner, and he put a handsome-looking guy, and all of a sudden he gets out of jail and he's modeling, but he could do all the modeling in the world. He could be a very good-looking guy, get all the women, have money, but he's still a criminal.
Yeah, this guy's still a gangster. Hernandez is still a gangster.
That's all there is to it.
I know.
That people don't change. People don't change easily.
No, but I always said, with the Patriots versus the Seahawks, I'd always say they had Aaron Hernandez,
Yeah.
Yes.
But our battles. But
he was actually playing while, the murders were done.
Exactly. And he played in the Super Bowl.
He was in the Super Bowl. That's so eerie. I mean, to think that, and he could just go out there and play a game like nothing happened, just spill some coffee or something.
And don't forget don't forget in his old trial, don't forget in his other trial that he had with Odom, Lamar Odom, his name wasn't, it was, anyway, but, thank you, that his girlfriend's sister was dating him. I mean, they were all close. They were all very close together, so it was like he killed somebody that he knew really well.
I had read a statistic somewhere. That 10%, I think it's 10% of all people, or at least all Americans, are sociopaths or psychopaths. A psychopath, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going out and committing crime. It doesn't mean you're hurting people. It simply means you don't have a conscience.
I think I've dated a few of those.
Yeah, well, I recommend you stay away from people like that because
I'm kidding.
They commit all kinds of offenses. They don't have they don't think that they don't understand the difference between right and wrong. Now, the only reason why more crime isn't committed is because we have laws and they don't want to go to jail. But imagine 10%, 1 out of every 10 people has no conscience, or they have a diminished conscience. And I think Aaron Hernandez was somewhere in that 10 percentile. And that's why he's on trial for murder, I think.
You brought this up, Alex, the mental, the lack of mental health for people.
I wrote a piece on the Aaron Hernandez trial, and I called it "The Psychopath and Circumstantial Evidence."
Oh, okay. Where could
about the first case that he was on?
Yes, about the first case.
Wow. Well, you
Psychopath,
connected
sociopath.
you connected all the dots there. I'll tell you that.
I like hearing that case because I like hearing the Boston accent, not French.
Yeah, right.
That is a very unique accent.
It is.
The Bostonian. But this next story is very interesting. It involves adoption with parents, and, let's hear about it and we'll talk.
A 3-year-old girl at the center of a heartbreaking custody battle. On one side, her adoptive family. On the other, her biological father, who was in prison when she was born and now wants her back. Here's ABC's Steve Olsensami.
I want to go pet him. Okay, well, let's go pet him.
Braylon Dalsing is just like most 3-year-olds. She's filled with curiosity and attached to her parents.
Hey, look!
But she has no idea about the giant legal battle now swirling around her.
It breaks our heart. Braylon is the one at the middle of this.
Hey, that's a cool one.
Braylon is adopted. Just a few days ago, her parents were told they could be forced to give their baby girl to Andrew Myers, her biological father. He told CBS News that Braylon belongs with him.
I really think it's time that she came home to her real family.
What's his name?
This little girl is now caught in the middle in a case that could help spell out what happens to other families in this same situation.
Say hi.
Ed and Tammy Dalsing first welcomed Braylon into their lives in 2013 when she was a newborn.
Brought her to our house. Just a beautiful little bundle of baby.
She was born in South Carolina with cocaine in her little body. So at 3 weeks old, the Dalsings became her foster parents.
We honestly thought at the beginning we were working a foster care plan to help a mother get her child back.
But then her health issues became more serious. She needed a special helmet like this one, and as foster parents, the Dalsings weren't allowed to make these kind of medical decisions. Her birth mother, Erica Kiesler, was struggling with addiction and had to make a difficult choice.
Probably one of the hardest choices I could imagine a mother making, and that's handing her daughter over to somebody else.
To you.
To us. But she knew that we loved her, and she knew that it was a good placement for her, so she made a sacrifice as a mother.
In her new home with 7 brothers and sisters, Braylon and her South Carolina family were clearly happy.
Can you say Merry Christmas? Merry Christmas.
But then, a year and a half later, a letter came in the mail.
That's the worst day I can ever remember. It was December 15th, and my husband called me, and he told me that the appellate court ruled against us. And I said, what do you mean?
Braylon's birth father had appealed their adoption, saying only he is Braylon's daddy, and the girl should now be with him in Virginia. Andrew Myers was in prison when she was born. According to court documents, he says he turned himself over to authorities for what were nonviolent crimes in the hope that he could serve his time and start raising his daughter. We reached out to Myers and were directed to speak with his lawyer, Nathan Sheldon.
From the very beginning, Mr. Myers had a plan that he should be unified with his child and that the child should be moved to Virginia.
Myers says that from his prison cell, he wrote to Braylon and arranged for his mother to send money. But even so, a judge chose to end his parental rights in 2015 because he was in prison, had little contact with Braylon, and wasn't directly paying child support. He and the girl's birth mother weren't married, so he had less of a claim.
You have to prove your worthiness, your fitness to actually be a parent, because being a father doesn't mean just a biological relationship, but the Supreme Court says that it's biology plus action.
Myers now says that his parental rights should never have been terminated simply because he was in jail. He was released from a Virginia prison in November, and now an appeals court is siding with him.
I've got my life together, and there's no reason she shouldn't be able to come home to me.
So now the Dalsings could lose the baby girl they've known almost her whole life.
I love you.
Who's that?
Daddy.
For any adoptive parent, their worst fear come true.
I'm a 20-year Marine veteran, and I've never cried as much as I have over this.
State law does say that efforts must be made to reunite children with their biological parents.
Hold your hands out like this, on top of mine, look.
But Braylon's biological mother firmly believes that the 3-year-old should stay with the Dalsings.
See the sparkles? Pretty, huh?
She now has regular visits, and she's gotten close with the new parents.
Who should she stay with, in your opinion?
The Dalsings. They're stable. They love her. They're financially able to do things that my family and his family put together would never be able to do. A shot at actually being something.
The Dalsings believe what's good for Braylon should matter most, and say they have the means to provide her a beautiful life.
We've been there for her. We want children's best interest to be able to take precedence.
They filed an appeal and lost. Now they're taking their case to the state Supreme Court.
We have no plans of stopping if it does not get corrected.
You'll take it all the way to the Supreme Court if you have to.
It's going to take the United States Supreme Court to deny us.
But even if Braylon's biological father wins, he still might not get custody.
Down low.
There's a process he'll need to get through to prove to the court that he is fit to raise the child.
Something else that we've heard is when you look at the life that this family is affording this child, it just seems that this situation is better for the child.
We're not going to get an analysis of, we can provide money versus they can't, so the child should be with us. That's not the society that we live in.
Are we going to look at parents and say that these parents are more worthy because they have more to support the child? This is supporting the right of poor parents to fight for and keep their children.
But the Dalsings say that it's not about money.
We want her to have a full, rich life. We've made it available to them that if they wanted to see her, they could.
Braylon has spent some time with her biological father's mother, but the Dalsings say that Andrew Myers himself has never seen his daughter in person.
Wouldn't she have to move to a different state?
Different state, different people. She'd wake up and not know anything. They don't even know her favorite color. I don't understand how a judge could say that these people deserve to raise Braylon.
The family says that the involvement hasn't been as great as you would expect from someone who really wanted to be involved in this girl's life.
We completely disagree with that assessment.
So for now, the case is in the courts, and all the adults who love this little girl, her father, the Dalsings, and Braylon's birth mother, just have to wait. While it's not yet clear where she will call home, it's very clear that she will be loved. For Nightline, I'm Steve Osinsami in Rock Hill, South Carolina.
Dan Bremner, to me, there's like so many problems in the foster, the way they do this, and this is just another example. But what is your take?
Well, I think we have to look at the best interest of the child, and I have to say my bias is I had the Susan Cox Powell case where everyone wanted to reunite those kids. Remember the missing mom from Utah? She's never been found. The father said that she went camping at midnight in the mountains with him in the snow and never came back with a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. Well, our state gave him those kids and gave him a lot of access, and he killed them. I'm not saying that's this here. I'm just saying when you put the rights of birth parents absolutely first, I think that's wrong. You need to look at where the child is and where they're doing well and where they're happy. And obviously he's been given a lot of access. I mean, I don't know the facts of this case that well, but I think we just always have to look, we have to say the safety and well-being of the child at any cost. That's our goal, not deferring to birth parents who have not been in the picture or, in some ways, being in prison shouldn't be enough for him not to have rights. On the other hand, I think we have to balance some things out here and be reasonable.
And even the wife for the natural parent, Alex, said that was the right situation. And but what is your opinion on this case?
Yeah, when I was first reading about the case, of course I'm horrified that these wonderful people adopted this child and invested so much time and effort in it. It would be a horrible tragedy if the kid was separated. I'm with them on that point. But when I'm thinking about the guy, I don't know how a court at some stage said he lost his rights. Now the guy had some criminal stuff going on, but that's not enough to just cut off somebody's rights. And that bothers me that some bozo judge somewhere along the line decided, well, his rights are being cut off and he's in prison and maybe he couldn't really legitimately appeal that. And I think that the parents, the kid is partly disabled and she needed a lot of treatment. And they're saying that, well, they couldn't get her treatment because they were not the parents. They could have gotten some document signed authorizing these people to make all medical decisions without, severing parental rights from both the mother and the father. So there was a lot of things that were done wrong along this way. But, now we're here. I mean, what do you do once you're here? Do you suddenly pull this kid out of a home and bring him to a strange place with this father? I think that the mother is doing the right thing by having a relationship with the child. She's allowed to come and visit the child. It sounds like anytime they want. I wish they could somehow establish that type of relationship with this father.
I think so too. Yeah.
I wish he would open up his heart and say, you know what, it's my child, but it really is working out very well for my child to be with these people. If they grant me access and I can see the child, I'm all for it. That would be the best resolution.
No, I agree with that, and I think, I look at my mother died when I was 7, and I have a stepmother, but I don't even call her that because she's my mother. I mean, she did everything for me. I love her
It's not about
to death.
DNA.
Pardon?
It's not about DNA.
It's not about DNA. So I'm just saying that my mother is my mother that raised me, and we see that in a lot of cases. It's who raised you. I mean, who loves you, and who takes care of you. And I think we really need to look at that.
So
it's a sad case. The idea that someone could take a child away. I think these parents, they're crying and they're saying it's really what's in the best interests of the child. And I think they legitimately want to see the best interests of the child. But the fact of the matter is, they love that kid so much that it would break their heart if the kid was taken away. That's
Absolutely.
what that's about. And I could sympathize with that.
It'd probably break the child's heart too.
Yeah. So.
And don't want to get too personal, but at 7, making the transition, was that hard growing up with?
No, I was really lucky to have somebody that came in, and there were 4 kids, and she called us the 4 hoodlums. I was 7, my brother was 3, my sister was 9, and my brother was 10. I mean, we're really lucky. I'm not saying we were so lucky to have someone that stepped in and raised us and treated us just like we were her own. And to this day, I mean, I spend so much time with her, and I'm so glad she's in my life, and she is my mother. She's my only mother.
Well, it's a great story.
Awesome.
Yeah,
totally
I'm lucky.
Great story.
We're all lucky.
Makes you think when you hear these cases, I'm sure. Makes you think hard. But there are so many bad things that go on in these, like group homes, I hear. That they throw these kids when they age out, especially. I read some awful things. And
talking about
so
foster parents, I represented this woman one time. She was a foster parent, and she did a wonderful job. She would, decorate the rooms, and she bought the kids all presents, and she was just fantastic. I mean, she just loved being a foster parent. And one day she made a mistake. She let one of the parents come over the house to see the child, which she wasn't supposed to do. But she would let them come over. She thought that was in the best interest of the child. And one parent said, "Please, can I please take my baby home just for one day, please?" And she made a mistake, let the baby go home, and the father killed the kid when he got home.
Oh,
what a horrible story.
That's awful.
Horrible. Just horrible.
There's so many more horrible.
I can't stand these sick people committing crimes against kids, crimes against animals. I can't take it. I cannot take these people.
I know. I'm with you 110%.
Change is needed, and hopefully one day we'll definitely get that. Okay, this next story is just very wild here. It's got a lot of twists and sounds. A couple is charged with pets living in deplorable conditions. Let's hear the sound.
Say a house where an emaciated dog was recently found is now at the center of another larger investigation. Authorities say in addition to the dog, they also found children and several other animals living in deplorable conditions. Tonight, 2 people are facing charges. Brenda Waters is live with more. Brenda.
Hi, Christine. This story came to a head back in early February when an 11-year-old boy was locked out of his house by his mother's boyfriend. The temperature that night, below freezing. That's when Bridgeville police got involved, and tonight, 2 people are here at the Allegheny County Jail. The house at 146 Liberty Avenue in Bridgeville is boarded up and condemned. A house shared by 34-year-old Bree Rittmeyer and her boyfriend, 30-year-old Marcus Stansick, and Rittmeyer's 2 children, an 11-year-old boy and a 16-year-old girl. Let's rewind to February 9th. Police were called here that evening.
They found an 11-year-old child locked out of the residence. It was about 19-20 degrees outside. He'd been outside for about 20 minutes. He had tried banging on the door with a shovel to get the attention of his mother's boyfriend, who was inside.
Then the little boy's the one that knocked on my door. I took him into my house and made the calls that I needed to make, and I kept him shielded from all the activity.
This neighbor says this is not the first time he had made calls about the people next door. Police say they too are familiar and aware of drug activity here. Fearing someone had overdosed that night, they broke in. Rittenmeyer was not home, but Stanczyk was.
He had heroin needles in his pocket and heroin paraphernalia and admitted to shooting up heroin approximately 1 hour prior to the police arrival.
Police say several animals in the house were emaciated and
the house was deplorable. There was human feces, animal feces throughout the house. Toilets were not working. It didn't appear that there was even any running water in the house.
Last Friday, Stanczyk and Rittenmeyer turned themselves in to police. Both are in jail, facing numerous charges, including endangering the welfare of children, cruelty to animals, and drug charges. Now, the children are with grandparents. Stanczyk's bond is set at $30,000. Rittenmeyer's is set at $5,000. And both police and the neighbor I interviewed say they had called CYF on several occasions. Reporting live at the county jail, Brenda Waters, KDKA TV News.
You know, Ann, you hear these stories, it just makes you think, like someone told me, you need a license to drive. You should have a license to be a parent. What's your take on the story?
Absolutely. It's just horrific. I mean, I just, it's like Will Rogers said, the more I see of people, the more I like my dog. I mean, it kind of fits here. I mean, it's ridiculous, and it's just evil. I mean, the way these people are acting and with the animals and everything else, I mean, they should just be put away forever.
Totally agree. Alex, weigh in.
Well, the thing that troubles me about this case, besides this couple, is they said the police had been there several times. I mean, well, if you were there several times, how come you didn't notice what's going on? I mean, what did this house in the last month become a sewer? And the kids were, I mean, they knew these people. They knew they had drug problems. They should have sent agents from the social service department out there repeatedly to interview the children. They are allowed to go into the house. They could be permitted to go into a house if they suspect there's improper conditions in there to investigate the house. And what about animal control officers? I understand one of the dogs was so emaciated they couldn't even walk. This is a dog.
Oh, it makes me sick.
Yeah, it was horrible. And I think, to me, the authorities are acting like they just learned of these deplorable conditions and that they knew about it. They just didn't take action. But that doesn't, but the couple themselves, they're an absolute disgrace. Yes, they were hooked on drugs, and drugs are horrible, and they change people. But you're responsible for your behavior. And these people need to pay a very serious penalty for the activities they engaged in and their neglect.
It reminds me a little of maybe, and you remember J.C. Dugard, where the police came so many times.
Mm-hmm.
This guy got her pregnant, and she had 3 kids, but they knew that he was a wacko and everything, and they never got it. Do you see some correlation between the two?
Well, sure, and then you look at what their legal responsibility is, or even like the Oakland fire that we had last year. I mean, they went so many times and checked that place out and did nothing, and it was just a tinderbox. It was not in compliance with any codes. But on the other hand, you have to ask, how much responsibility do they have based on what they can see? But I always go, for some reason, I'm such an animal person. I mean, to abuse animals that way, they're so vulnerable, and children. I mean, it's just unforgivable, and the police should have done a lot more, but these people are ultimately responsible and reprehensible.
Do you have any animals as pets, Ann?
Oh, do I? I have 2 cats, Jim and Jimmy. One's sitting right on my lap right now, and one of them is brain damaged from birth. I love animals, and they're feral. They're rescue.
Dogs.
What? You have dogs?
I have a tiny pet poodle, toy poodle.
Oh, cute.
And I have a Siberian husky.
Oh, I love dogs.
Wow.
So,
how long?
I have to.
What are their names?
How long?
Well, the poodle, which my daughter bought and named, is called Cupcake.
Cute. Cupcake.
And the Siberian husky is named Roxy.
Oh, so cute.
That's a good name.
That dog likes to run and is always begging me to take her out on walks, and she doesn't care how cold it is. No consideration for me. She wants to go out.
They want to.
So I'm a dog person too.
Yeah, the animals are special, and that's why when Michael Vick did what he did, and you know that story, so many people were horrified. Yeah, you remember that story, right?
Yeah, Michael Vick was engaged in these dog fighting activities, and then when he was finished having his dog fight and get half mutilated, he would beat him to death with a baseball bat, electrocute him, or drown him.
No, I know.
What kind of guy? What kind of person is this? But who does this?
The fighting.
You have to be.
It's almost
you
like
have to be possessed.
They try to say
you have to be possessed by the devil to do this. You know.
To an animal.
Unbelievable. I mean, and now he gets caught. And, you know, he goes to jail, not for enough time, and all of a sudden he's sorry. You know, I don't want to hear about you being sorry. I don't. You know something. I think the older I get, I have less tolerance. I really do. I have less tolerance for real evil people. I have a lot of tolerance for people that make mistakes. I understand that.
Right.
People deserve a second chance. But when you cross the line into depravity and evilness, I just don't have any tolerance for that. I just don't. Maybe Ann does.
It's a brilliant point.
Oh no, I'm like I said, I'm a total animal person.
But you're right, Alex. There's a difference between, you know, being, you know, having a mistake, you know, getting in the car drunk and doing something wrong, and then just being straight out evil like these people are.
Yeah.
There is a big difference. But,
yeah, and unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are pretty depraved.
Mm-hmm. No question.
I remember there was Richard Pryor. You know, he was doing a little show on TV, and he goes, you know, I went to the local prison, you know. I wanted to check out, you know, visit my brothers in there. And he goes, man, thank God for jails, man.
He's funny. He was, at least, Richard Pryor. Okay, 20 years today, the notorious B.I.G. Died, but the case never gets solved. There was the sound, and we'll talk about it.
Rapper Christopher the Notorious B.I.G. Wallace was shot and killed on March 9, 1997. It's been 20 years since his murder, and it remains unsolved. At the time of his death, singer Faith Evans was married to Wallace, and she recently recorded a 25-track album of duets with the rapper titled The King and I. The album uses songs from Biggie's Vault, and it features collaborations with Busta Rhymes, Snoop Dogg, and Lil' Kim. The album, which Evans has been working on for 2 years, will be released in May.
Okay, Alex, after 20 years, how is it that there is no suspects, nothing, and nobody's being held accountable for that, in your opinion?
Because nobody's talking, you know, nobody's talking. I mean, they know, you know, there certainly people in this rap culture, they know who did this, why it was done. But there's the idea of omerta, as the Italians would say, silence. You don't open your mouth. You're quiet. You're not going to speak to the police. All problems are going to be resolved the old-fashioned way, you know, with guns and bullets and, you know, killings. And, you know, this guy, you know, okay, the guy was talented. Yes, he was talented in that area that he pursued. But he was involved in this culture of promoting violence and revenge and, you know, promoting gangsterism. And, you know, when you live that life and one day it catches up to you. It caught up to him. And that's all there is to it.
Well, he didn't deserve to die, no matter what.
Nobody deserves to die. Of course not. But you have to understand that it's almost expected that that's going to happen at some point. Because if you're going to live that life,
lyrics like that?
No, he didn't
the
just
lyrics
write
weren't
lyrics
great.
like
that.
Yeah, but I believe the people that he associated with, they were on the periphery. You know, he came from this drug background. A lot of people in this area are legitimate. Some are legitimate rappers and singers, but other people are in this culture of drugs and gangs, and it begins to merge. The lines become very murky. And
Jealousy.
That life catches up with you at some point. This East-West feud they supposedly have. Well, it got out of hand. Tupac Shakur was murdered. You know, it's not a joke anymore.
No, it is. It's terrible. And but 20 years in, that's pretty odd. There was books written that there's conspiracies that the cops were involved. I don't know how much that's true, but what do you make of the 20-year part? That nothing has happened in terms of getting anybody or justice.
Well, I mean, to me, I think that, they've had a lot of people, they've mentioned like Suge Knight. I had a case against Cat Williams, his best friend, and kind of looked into both of their backgrounds and a lot of the Saturday Night Live spoofs they did on those two, like, stop arresting us. But now Suge Knight, of course, is in jail for murder. But the fact is, that loose lips sink ships. Dead men tell no tales. It's a whole culture, like Alex said, that you're just not going to have a lot of leads after 20 years. And how old was he? 24 years old. It was a drive-by, just like Aaron Hernandez. The people aren't talking, and Death Row Records and all those things. It's and who was the other one? There was someone that was killed 6 months before he was in Los Angeles.
Tupac.
Yeah, exactly. So
Tupac.
Tupac. So
also not solved.
Also what?
Also not solved in terms of having any justice for him.
Yeah, it's
unsolved. Yeah.
Yeah, and
but they believe.
There's been books that were written about Biggie Small, books about LAPD covering up things. All these different theories, but we don't have any answers.
See, I predict though, in the next couple of years, I think it's going to come out.
Do you?
You know why it's going to come out? Because people get older.
Yeah.
People get arrested. People convey information to friends. They die. Their friends know. Sooner or later, it's going to come out who killed this guy and why. And more likely than not, it was probably a revenge-type killing. It probably has to do with that so-called East-West feud. It probably has to do with the death of Tupac Shakur, who a lot of people believe Biggie Smalls had something to do with.
That's
and
right.
It probably is all those reasons that people suspect it is. That when you're in this culture and you're mixed with criminals, and you're blending art with a dark reality. Well, sometimes ugly things happen in that type of situation.
I think you're exactly right.
And if we had the cell phones and the social media today, of course, this happened 20 years ago. So I think there would be a very good chance that they could have got somebody might have had a phone out, or the way people see things now and 20 years ago is way different. Okay.
That's exactly right. It'd be a whole different situation, completely different. And there'd be more, like just like we had in Aaron Hernandez's case, we had texts and other evidence against him.
Yes.
In that case, not from others, but from him and from the victim himself. And we had GPS, and we had all kinds of tracking with the cell phones of exactly where he was, at the time of the murder, and that's where he was, where the murder occurred, by tracking.
I think a lot of people put this exaggerated reliance on modern technology that is going to cut down on crime. I was telling my brother that I like to take these long walks around my neighborhood, and there's a school not far away. And I would walk there at night. It's completely, nobody's there. And I would take these long walks around this yard there with my dog. And then my brother's saying, well, why do you walk there? That could be dangerous. And I'm saying, what are you talking about? There's cameras all over the place. And he said, hey, maybe there's cameras all over the place, and maybe they're going to solve the crime, but it doesn't mean you can't get killed. So modern technology, they may be great in terms of solving crime, but it's not going to stop human nature.
Right.
It's not going to stop people from being the vicious monsters that many of them are.
Totally agree. Okay, we got a couple of callers. Let's go to Hawaii. I believe she's in. Let's say good evening to, or maybe it's morning there, but Mary is on the phone with us. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Jordan, and hi, Ann.
Hi.
And Alex. Hi, and
How are
Alex, good to have you back.
Hi.
Hope everything's fine on your home front.
Well, thank you.
We
Thank
missed
you.
And
Great to be back.
Good. I live in Hawaii now, but I'm a loyal listener. So,
where did you live before?
In Virginia.
Oh, I somehow thought you were in California. No, wait a
that's
minute.
Sarah.
That's the other
Sarah
Kardashians.
Kardashians, yeah. Yeah. But anyway, on this situation with the kids, the adoptive versus the natural father, I can relate with that. My 3 kids were a sibling group of 3 that we adopted because they were abused and severely neglected by the parents. And we had them for a year, and then we adopted them. And the mother signed her rights away, but the father was in prison in Georgia for grand larceny. And he exercised his parental rights to come to Virginia twice to have to stop the adoption. But the judge would ask him each time, well, how are you going to take care of these kids if you're in prison? And he would say, well, I've got family that could take care of them until I get out and this and that. Well, they'd already been with us for a year. And so the judge in Virginia just ruled to terminate his rights.
Wow, same situation as this.
Yes, but
as this couple.
Talk about karma always pays you a visit. 20 years later, he ended up getting remarried and had 2 daughters. I always thought that my daughter, his first daughter, had been molested in some way by him, but I could never prove it. So he got remarried, and 20 years later, this past fall, his daughters now were 13 and 16, turned him in for sexual abuse. And it was aggravated sexual abuse in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Yeah, which Pennsylvania is a very tough state for sexual abuse of children. And he just got sentenced to 50 years to life.
That's where Bill Cosby is being prosecuted.
Yes.
And Sandusky.
Wow.
Right,
He will never get out and hurt another child. So
thank God that your kids were not taken away and sent back to this monster. And I'm sure that you were a great mom to these kids. And, I want to thank you on behalf of these children and every other foster kid out there.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great story for you.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. So you guys have a good evening.
You too. Thanks for that.
What time is it there, Mary?
It's 5:30 p.m.
Okay. Just evening there. Have a good one, Mary. Thanks so much for calling.
Okay, bye. Bye, Jordan.
Okay, now let's go to California and say hello to Sarah Kardashian. She is on the line. And a good evening to you, Sarah. You're live with Ann Bremner and Alex Sanchez.
Well, hello, everybody.
Hi, Sarah.
All right,
how are you guys?
Sarah.
I'm good. Well, a great show. So many topics. And I do want to say first, listening to Mary's call, I do think Mary's a wonderful person and a fabulous mother, and she did something so great and so wonderful for 3 children that had a really, really rough start. Just to say a few things about the convicted liar, Casey Anthony, because that's all they could convict her on. What astounds me the most, because even for like a nanosecond, if you could bring yourself for a nanosecond to believe that she didn't do anything, that being said, any mother who doesn't know what happened to their child would never sleep well, would never sleep pretty well, not one day in their life, even if she was innocent. I would be institutionalized if I never knew what happened to my daughter. So that's all I have to say about her. I mean, she just has, there is nothing that she says that's truthful.
Good point.
I also want to say, you know, how everybody after a trial says, oh, we respect the jury, you know, it's the jury's decision. Well, you know, in California with Scott Peterson, there was no cause of death, and they were able to put the dots together. So I'm not crazy about, you know, we have to respect the jury, because I think that jury got it really, really wrong. And I also still think in 2017 there is a huge gender bias that women just get off. They just get off, okay, more than men do. Moving on, Aaron Hernandez. How very sad that this man grew up however and wherever he did, became a very, very successful football star. And then what does he do? He does these things. I mean, he has been convicted of one murder, so I am not so sure that he did not commit the other two murders, although the trial hasn't started yet, and I'm always open to a good defense. And I'm sure Jose Baez will say, somebody drowned those people and they were never even shot, okay? Because I can't believe Jose Baez is taking on this case. But I don't know. Anyway, now, the thing about the adoptive parents, and Alex, I really agree with you about the fact that what was this judge thinking? In Mary's case, from what I remember what she said, the man actually appeared in court, and the judge told him to his face, you know, your rights are terminated. It doesn't sound like this man had a hearing for himself or anything, that the judge just terminated his rights without him even knowing. So that does bother me, because then this would not be this horrible, horrible, sad mess that it is if this man was able to go to court and then still have his rights terminated by a judge. I think that would be a whole different story. And as far as that couple that you were talking about and how horrible and cruel they have been to their children and their animals and everything, I don't think anything's going to change until really and truly there are stronger and longer sentences for these people.
Yes.
Sometimes I read about all these cases and they get 2 years, they get 3 years, they get maybe 5 years. It doesn't make that big of a statement. And I don't know truly if it's a deterrent. I guess it's not, because it's so commonplace. Every day you hear about these horrible stories. But I still think that those same people need stronger and longer sentences. I really, really do. Okay, so I have spouted out enough. You guys can say whatever you want, and that's all.
Thank you for those comments.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Wonderful comments. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, appreciate that call, Sarah, and thanks for checking in. And yes, she's definitely right in terms of the length of sentences. And do you agree with that, Ann?
Well, sure. I mean, we definitely need longer sentences, and there's always sentencing reform. There's no question. Those are great comments.
Alex?
Well, you know, longer sentencing, I mean, you know, in some cases that's appropriate, but these people were serious drug addicts. And, you know, there definitely needs to be a very aggressive approach to dealing with people that have drug problems, and there needs to be the availability of programs and whatever medications people take when they're addicted to drugs. It needs to be much more available. You know, there needs to be much more mental health and psychiatric facilities available. There isn't enough. And, you know, more likely than not, these people, that couple, had drug problems and mental health problems. Try to get yourself mental health treatment today. Try it. See, you know, because I know I deal with a lot of clients. It's very hard. It's expensive. Insurance companies don't want to cover it in any significant way. You know, you have to travel long distances. Sometimes you have to wait. Try to make an appointment to see a psychiatrist to say, well, you know, the earliest time you can see a psychiatrist is 2 months, 2-3 months. So we need a lot more social type of facilities to deal with people's mental health and drug problems. And yes, enhancing prison sentences, yes, that may be important too, but that's not the only solution. The solution has to come from multiple fronts.
No question, and we're about to wrap it. So, Alex, thanks so much for joining us here tonight. And thank you so much.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Okay,
and we'll definitely do this again. Alex,
all right, Jordan.
Of course. We'll talk soon. And thanks so much, guys, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
All right, good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye. You're wonderful, both of you.
Okay, so thanks to Ann Bremner. Should I ask her about the that link that she was talking about? But very good topics today with the adoption situation, the adoptive parents. I thought that was great covering that. Caylee Anthony, oh my, I don't like what she says. It's very sickening, to tell you the truth, in my opinion. So we did that. Aaron Hernandez, we'll see what happens with that. Interesting that Jose Baez took that case. That would be interesting if he won that case also. But also, we're going to just do shows for now twice a month. So the next show will be 2 weeks from tonight. Richard Herman will be here to join us. Give a shout out to Biggie, Maddie, Mary, Sarah, Pager. All you people are awesome. Okay, so for tonight's song, it is a very awesome song in my opinion. I'll Be Missing You. This was a song when the rapper died. Biggie, the wife, teamed up with Puff Daddy, and they took the 80s hit, I'll Be Missing You. It's a beautiful song. Please follow me on Twitter at King Jordan R8. And we'll see you in 2 weeks from tonight with Richard Herman. But let's leave you with this beautiful song on the day 20 years ago that Biggie Smalls was killed. Puff Daddy, I'll Be Missing You. Good night, everybody. We'll speak to you in 2 weeks.